Hey guys! Tonight we dive into a story that'll make you second-guess every creak in your floorboards and every shadow dancing on your walls. You're sitting there now, maybe in bed or curled up on the couch, thinking this is just another tale. But what if it isn't? What if, while you listen, something else listens back? Historians still argue whether fear of the unknown is an evolutionary trait or purely psychological, but either way, you probably won't survive this one without checking over your shoulder at least once. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. Let's see who's brave enough to tune in after midnight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through the front door, keys jangling softly as they hit the counter. The house exhales around you, settling into its familiar groan of wood and plaster. It's late, too late, for anyone to bother you, or so you think. Your phone buzzes briefly against the countertop, casting a pale glow across the room. But it's just a spam notification about discounts at some store you've never heard of. Rolling your eyes, you silence it and glance toward the living room. Everything seems normal. Too normal, even. That nagging feeling creeps in, the kind where your brain whispers, something's not right. But you shake it off because, well, why wouldn't you? This is your home, your sanctuary. Nothing bad happens here, right? Wrong. The knock comes out of nowhere. A sharp rap against the solid oak of your front door. 3 distinct beats, loud enough to startle you mid-step. You freeze, heart stuttering like a car engine refusing to start. Who could possibly be visiting at this hour? No delivery driver would dare show up now. Not in this neighborhood. Friends? They'd text first. Family? Same deal. And yet, the sound lingers in the air, echoing faintly off the walls as though daring you to answer. Your pulse quickens, pounding in your ears like a drumbeat, counting down to something ominous. You edge closer to the door, bare feet padding silently against the cool tile. Each step feels heavier than the last, gravity conspiring with your anxiety to weigh you down. Funny how the simplest things can feel so monumental when you're scared. Like walking across your own damn living room becoming an Olympic feat still. You press on, curiosity battling common sense of control of your next move. Reaching the peephole, you pause, breath caught somewhere between your lungs and your throat. For a moment, all you hear is a steady ticking of the clock hanging above the kitchen table, mocking you with its indifference. Then, steeling yourself, you lean forward and peer through the tiny glass lens. Outside, nothing. Just the dim orange glow of the street lamp spilling onto your porch, illuminating empty space where someone or something should be standing. But wait, there's something odd about the light. It flickers ever so slightly, almost imperceptibly, as though struggling to stay alive, like it knows something you don't. Or maybe it's reacting to whatever knocked. You pull back sharply, pressing your spine flat against the wall beside the door. Rationality tries to kick in, whispering reassurances like, it was probably just a wind, or maybe a branch fell. Except trees don't knock politely, do they? And branches don't leave behind that lingering sense of being watched. Still, you can't ignore the fact that no one's there. Or at least, no one visible. Which begs the question, did you imagine it? Was it some auditory hallucination brought on by exhaustion or stress? People claim sleep deprivation can mess with your mind, causing everything from phantom phone vibrations to full-blown ghost sightings. But deep down, you know better. This wasn't imagined. It was real, painfully, terrifyingly real. And then, just as you convince yourself to retreat to the safety of your bedroom, it happens again. Another knock, louder this time, more insistent. 3 deliberate taps that seem to reverberate straight through your chest cavity. You jump, stifling a yelp that threatens to escape your lips. Okay, fine. Not imagined. Definitely not imagined. Whatever or whoever is out there wants your attention, and they're not going away anytime soon. So now what? Do you open the door and face whatever awaits on the other side? Or do you barricade yourself inside, hoping the walls will hold against whatever force has decided to pay you a visit? Either choice feels equally doomed, like picking between two doors in a horror movie where both lead to certain death. Classic trope, right? Except this isn't fiction. This is your life. Your very real, very vulnerable life. Funny how quickly bravery evaporates when faced with the unknown. Earlier today, you were practically fearless, arguing with co-workers, navigating traffic, maybe even standing up to a rude cashier. Yet here you are, paralyzed by 3 little knocks that shouldn't mean anything, but somehow mean everything. Human nature is weird like that. We're built to survive, to adapt, to overcome. Until we're not. Until fear takes root and spreads like ivy, choking out logic and reason, until all that's left is primal instinct screaming, run. But running isn't an option right now. Not unless you plan to leap out a window or claw your way through drywall. Instead, you stand there frozen, listening intently for any sign of movement beyond the door. Silence greets you, thick and heavy, wrapping itself around the room like a suffocating blanket. Even the clock has gone quiet, its rhythmic ticking replaced by an eerie void that makes your skin crawl. Then, just as you begin to wonder if perhaps the knocking has stopped for good, you hear it, a faint scrape, like nails dragging slowly across wood, coming from upstairs. The sound is subtle, almost imperceptible, but it's there, a soft, deliberate scrape that sends your stomach plummeting. It's not the kind of noise a house makes when it settles. This is intentional, controlled. The hairs on the back of your neck prickle as you realize it's coming from inside. Your mind races with possibilities, each one worse than the last. Could it be an animal? A raccoon or squirrel sneaking in through an open window? No, those tiny claws wouldn't produce such a calculated sound. This is something else entirely. Something human, or at least something wearing human-like intent. You glance toward the staircase, its shadowy ascent disappearing into darkness. Every step leading upward seems impossibly steep now, like scaling a mountain rather than climbing a flight of stairs. Rationality whispers again. It's probably nothing, go check it out. But fear clamps down hard, rooting you to the spot. Funny how fear works, isn't it? Biologists argue endlessly about whether it's purely chemical, an adrenaline surge triggered by perceived threats, or something deeper, more primal. Either way, right now, it feels less like a survival mechanism and more like a cruel prank designed to keep you exactly where you are, stuck between fight and flight, neither fully committed. Still, curiosity eventually wins out because, let's face it, ignoring the sound won't make it go away. You tiptoe toward the base of the stairs, moving as quietly as possible despite knowing full well that whoever or whatever is upstairs likely already knows you're here. Each step closer amplifies the tension coiling tight in your chest. The air grows colder too, though maybe that's just your imagination playing tricks on you. People often report feeling temperature drops during moments of intense fear, though scientists still debate whether it's physiological or psychological. Historians even point to ancient folklore claiming spirits drain heat from your surroundings, but hey, who's counting? Reaching the foot of the staircase, you pause, listening intently. The scraping has stopped, leaving behind only silence so thick it feels tangible. For a fleeting second, hope flickers. Maybe it was nothing after all. Maybe the noise was just your mind conjuring ghosts where none exist. Then, without warning, it starts again. Closer this time. Sharper. More deliberate. Whatever's making it is definitely moving and heading downward. Your breath catches in your throat. Lungs refusing to cooperate as panic sets in. Okay, fine. So much for bravery. Turning tail and bolting back to the safety of the living room sounds incredibly appealing right about now. Except, what if running makes things worse? What if charging up the stairs draws attention to yourself in ways you can't undo? Fear morphs into indecision, paralyzing you once more. Instead, you crouch low, pressing yourself against the wall beside the staircase railing. From this angle, you have a partial view of the upper hallway, though most of it remains shrouded in shadows. Funny thing about shadows, they always seem darker when you're alone at night. Artists and filmmakers exploit this phenomenon constantly, using light and absence to create tension. But knowing that doesn't help. Not tonight, because these shadows aren't part of some carefully crafted scene. They're real, alive, almost swallowing everything they touch. Minutes drag by, or maybe it's seconds. Time feels distorted as you wait for movement. And then it happens. A single footstep echoes above, followed by another. Slow, measured steps descending the staircase one by one. Whoever, or whatever it is, they're taking their sweet time, savoring every moment of your terror. You bite down hard on your lip to stifle a whimper, tasting copper as your teeth break skin. Great. Now you're bleeding internally while trying to avoid becoming dinner for some unseen intruder. Priorities, right? Each step brings them closer, the sound growing louder until it dominates every other sensory input. Your vision narrows, tunneling focus onto the top of the staircase where the figure should appear any second now. Funny how your brain defaults to worst-case scenarios during times like this. Serial killers, vengeful spirits, alien abductors, you name it, your imagination conjures it. Yet somehow, none of those options feel quite right. This presence feels different. Older, more patient, like it's been waiting for you long before tonight began. Suddenly, the footsteps halt midway down the staircase. Dead silence follows, broken only by the erratic pounding of your own heartbeat thundering in your ears. Did they hear you? Are they watching you right now? Hidden just beyond the edge of visibility? Paranoia grips you like icy fingers digging into flesh, urging you to move, to either confront or flee. But your body refuses to obey. Instead, you remain frozen, muscles locked rigid as stone, while sweat beads along your hairline. Then comes a whisper, barely audible yet unmistakable. A single word drifts down the staircase, carried on breath colder than winter frost. Help. Your stomach lurches violently, bile rising sharp and acidic at the base of your throat. Help? Seriously? That's what they say? If horror movies have taught you anything, it's that creatures asking for help rarely mean well. Still, something about the plea tugs at you, stirring guilt and empathy despite every instinct screaming otherwise. What if it's genuine? What if someone really needs assistance? Morality wars with self-preservation, tearing you apart from the inside out. Before you can decide what to do next, the voice speaks again. Louder this time, clearer, please. And then, softer, almost tenderly, don't leave me. That's when you notice it. The faint glow emanating from beneath the staircase. At first glance, it looks like moonlight streaming through cracks in the foundation. But no, that's impossible. There's no window under there, no source of natural light whatsoever. The glow pulses rhythmically, matching the cadence of the voice calling out to you. Hypnotic, entrancing, dangerous. Against all better judgment, you lean forward slightly, peering into the darkness beneath the staircase. Shadows twist and writhe within confined space, forming shapes that shouldn't exist outside nightmares. Eyes blink open amidst the chaos. Countless pairs staring directly at you, watching, waiting, and then, just as quickly as it appeared, the glow vanishes, plunging the area back into suffocating blackness. Silence reigns once more, oppressive and absolute. Even the footsteps have ceased, leaving only the lingering echo of that desperate plea hanging heavy in the air. You recoil instinctively, scrambling backward until your spine hits the opposite wall. Your breathing comes in shallow gasps now, each inhale sharp and ragged, as though the very act of drawing air requires monumental effort. The glow may be gone, but its memory lingers, burned into your retinas like an afterimage that refuses to fade. Those eyes, so many eyes, watching you from the abyss beneath the stairs. What were they? Whose were they? Questions tumble through your mind unchecked, colliding into one another until coherent thought becomes nearly impossible. Funny how quickly rationality crumbles under pressure. Just moments ago, you were debating whether the noise upstairs warranted investigation. Now, you're questioning the nature of reality itself. Philosophers have long argued about perception versus truth. How much of what we experience is real, and how much is constructed by our brains to fill gaps in understanding. Right now, it doesn't matter. Whether those eyes existed physically or merely within the confines of your terrified imagination, their impact remains undeniable. They've left a mark on you, etched deep into your psyche like graffiti sprayed across a pristine wall. Your gaze darts around the room, searching for anything familiar to anchor yourself to. The furniture sits exactly where it always has. The couch draped with a blanket you knitted last winter. The coffee table cluttered with magazines you'll never actually read. The lamp casting soft golden light over everything. Yet none of it feels safe anymore. Everything seems tainted, corrupted by whatever force has invaded your home. Even the shadows cast by ordinary objects stretch unnaturally long, writhing slightly as though alive. Artists call this effect chiaroscuro, using stark contrast between light and dark to evoke emotion. But there's nothing artistic about this. It's visceral, raw, suffocating. Still crouched against the wall, you muster enough courage to glance back toward the staircase. Nothing stirs. No footsteps echo. No voices whisper. Just silence stretching endlessly before you, thick and unyielding. Maybe it's over. Maybe whatever was here has moved on, leaving you shaken but ultimately unharmed. Hope flickers weakly, fragile as a candle flame in a hurricane. You almost believe it might hold. Almost. Then, without warning, the front door slams shut. Not gently, not accidentally, a violent crash that rattles the entire house. Every muscle in your body tenses simultaneously, adrenaline surging like electricity through exposed wires. You whip your head toward the sound, heart hammering wildly against your ribcage. Was it the wind? No, too deliberate, too angry. Someone or something. Close that door with purpose, sealing you inside. Panic claws at your throat, threatening to choke off what little composure you had left. Escape routes flash through your mind. Windows, doors, even breaking through drywall if necessary. Except, none of those options guarantee freedom. Outside could be worse than inside. Besides, whoever or whatever is here knows you're trapped. They wanted you locked in for a reason, and running blindly won't change that fact. So instead, you stay put, trembling violently as you weigh your next move. The peephole beckons, taunting you with promises of answers just beyond reach. Do you dare look again? Last time, it revealed nothing but empty space, an absence somehow more terrifying than presence. Still, morbid curiosity gnaws at you, urging you closer despite every fiber of your being screaming to stay away. Slowly, reluctantly, you rise to your feet, legs shaking so badly you fear they might give out entirely. Each step toward the door feels like walking through molasses, resistance pulling at you from all sides. By the time you reach it, sweat slicks your palms, making the brass knob slippery beneath your fingers. Funny how such a mundane object can feel so sinister given the right context. Turning would mean opening yourself up to whatever waits outside, or confirming once and for all that no one's there. Both outcomes carry equal weight in terms of terror. Finally, you lean forward, pressing your eye to the cold glass lens. At first, nothing, just the same dim orange glow of the street lamp spilling onto your porch, illuminating emptiness. Then, movement catches your peripheral vision, a fleeting shadow darting across the edge of the frame. Instinctively, you jerk back, slamming your shoulder painfully into the wall behind you. Pain blooms hot and bright, grounding you momentarily in physical sensation rather than mental chaos. When you finally gather nerve to peer through again, the shadow's gone, vanished completely, as though it never existed. But you saw it. You know you did. Shadows don't move like that, not unless someone casts them. And yet, no figure stands visible on your porch. Only darkness pools thickly beyond the threshold, swallowing light whole. A chill runs down your spine, raising goosebumps along your arms. This isn't normal. None of this is normal. Historians still argue whether folklore surrounding haunted houses stems from genuine paranormal encounters or mere psychological projection caused by isolation and stress. Either way, tonight proves one thing unequivocally. Some forces transcend explanation, rational or otherwise, backing away slowly. You keep your gaze fixed firmly on the door, half expecting it to burst open at any moment. It doesn't. Instead, the handle begins to turn, a slow, deliberate rotation that sends fresh waves of panic crashing over you. Metal clicks softly as the latch disengages, unlocking itself without human intervention. Your breath hitches, caught somewhere between disbelief and sheer terror. Locked doors lie indeed. The sound of the latch retracting echoes in your ears like a death knell. each metallic click reverberating through the silence. You stumble backward, legs tangling awkwardly as if they've forgotten how to function properly. The door remains closed for now, but its unlocked state feels like an invitation, one extended by something far older and more malevolent than anything you've ever encountered. Locked doors are supposed to keep danger out, not usher it in. Yet here you stand, staring at wood and metal that suddenly feel as flimsy as paper. Your mind races, grasping for explanations. Could it be a faulty mechanism? A quirk of the house settling, causing the lock to disengage on its own? Engineers might call this phenomenon thermal contraction, where temperature changes cause materials to shift slightly. But deep down, you know better. This wasn't random or accidental. Something or someone wanted access, and now they have it. All that stand between you and whatever waits outside is a thin slab of oak. You glance around frantically, searching for something, anything, to barricade the door with. Furniture seems like the obvious choice, but moving it would require crossing the room, exposing yourself to potential threats lurking just beyond sight. Funny how survival instincts kick in when faced with imminent peril. One moment, you're paralyzed by fear. The next, you're calculating escape routes and makeshift weapons with alarming clarity. Evolutionary psychologists argue this duality stems from our ancestors' need to balance caution with action during life or death situations. Too bad modern problems don't come with clear-cut solutions. Deciding against furniture for now, you settle instead on grabbing the nearest heavy object, a ceramic vase sitting precariously atop the entryway table. It's ugly, a garish gift from a distant relative you barely remember. But right now, its weight feels comforting in your hands. If push comes to shove, and oh, you hope it doesn't, you can always hurl it at whatever tries to get in. Violence isn't typically your style, but desperate times call for desperate measures. With the vase clutched tightly, you inch closer to the door again, heart pounding so loudly you swear it must be audible from outside. Each step creaks softly beneath your feet, amplifying the tension coiled tight within your chest. Funny how familiar sounds take on sinister undertones under these circumstances. Normally, floorboards groaning underfoot wouldn't raise an eyebrow. Tonight, though, every noise feels like a countdown ticking inexorably toward disaster. Reaching the door, you press your ear cautiously against its surface, straining to detect any sign of movement beyond. Silence greets you initially, thick and unyielding, stretching endlessly until it becomes almost unbearable. Then, faintly, you hear it, breathing. Slow, measured inhalations interspersed with equally deliberate exhalations. Whoever, or whatever, is out there isn't trying to hide anymore. They want you to know they're close. Close enough to touch, if only the barriers separating you weren't in the way. A shiver runs down your spine, icy tendrils wrapping themselves around your core. That breath, it's wrong somehow. Too rhythmic, too mechanical. Not quite human. Or maybe not entirely human anymore. Folklore across cultures often describes entities capable of mimicking human traits, while retaining distinctly non-human characteristics. Historians still debate whether such stories originated from genuine encounters, or served as cautionary tales meant to instill obedience in unruly communities. Either way, tonight leaves little room for doubt. Some legends hold kernels of truth buried beneath layers of myth. Suddenly, the doorknob begins to turn again. This time, however, it moves faster, more aggressively, as though growing impatient with your hesitation. Panic surges anew, adrenaline flooding your system like wildfire consuming dry brush. Without thinking, you lunge forward, pressing your full body weight against the door in a futile attempt to keep it shut. Muscles strain painfully as the knob continues its relentless rotation, inching closer to opening fully despite your efforts. "Go away!" you shout, voice cracking under the strain of desperation. "Leave me alone." For a brief second, everything stops. The turning ceases mid-motion, leaving the handle poised ominously halfway between locked and unlocked positions. Even the breathing pauses, creating an eerie void where sound should exist. Your pulse pounds in your ears, drowning out all else as you wait for what happens next. Then, softly, almost tenderly, a voice responds from the other side. "Why?" It's a single word, yet it carries infinite weight, dripping with curiosity and malice alike. Whatever lies beyond the threshold knows exactly how to manipulate your emotions, exploiting vulnerability like a predator cornering its prey. Fear morphs into anger briefly. How dare to ask questions when it's clearly the aggressor here? Before collapsing back into terror once more. I'm not letting you in. You manage to choke out, voice trembling despite your best efforts to sound defiant. You're not welcome. Silence follows, heavy and oppressive, lasting long enough to make you question whether the entity heard you at all. Just as you begin to relax slightly, convinced perhaps it's decided to leave, the response comes, low and guttural, vibrating through it like a physical force. But I'm already inside. Your blood runs cold, freezing solid in your veins as comprehension dawns. Of course, why waste time breaking down barriers when you've already breached them unnoticed? The staircase earlier, the glow beneath it, the whispers calling out for help. All signs pointing to an intruder who never needed permission to enter because they'd been watching you long before the night began. Backing away slowly, you tighten your grip on the vase, knuckles white with exertion. Every instinct screams at you to run, to find shelter somewhere safer than this cursed house. Except safety feels like an illusion now, shattered irrevocably by the realization that escape won't solve anything. Wherever you go, whatever you do, it will follow, because it's already inside. And then, without warning, the lights flicker violently overhead, plunging the room into chaotic bursts of darkness and light. Shadows dance erratically along the walls, twisting into grotesque shapes that seem alive in their own right. Electricity crackles audibly, sharp pops accompanying each surge as though the wiring itself has developed a consciousness bent on tormenting you further. Blindly, you stagger toward the kitchen, seeking refuge amidst countertops and appliances designed to provide comfort rather than fear. Instead, you collide hard with the edge of the dining table, pain exploding brightly across your hip. Cursing under your breath, you clutch at the injury, vision swimming momentarily as tears spring unbidden to your eyes. Great, now you're injured and terrified. Perfect combination. As the power stabilizes somewhat, dim bulbs casting weak illumination throughout the space. You notice something odd about the reflection in the microwave window. At first glance, it appears normal, a disheveled version of yourself staring wide-eyed into glass. Then, subtly, almost imperceptibly, your reflection shifts independently. Eyes blink slower. Lips curl upward into a smirk you certainly didn't mirror. Your breath catches sharply, lungs seizing up as though someone's tightened an invisible vice around your chest. The reflection in the microwave stares back at you, familiar yet horrifyingly alien. Its smirk widens fractionally, lips parting just enough to reveal teeth that glint unnaturally bright despite the dim lighting. Your heart slams against your ribs, each beat reverberating like a drum roll, counting down to something catastrophic. You blink once, twice, hoping some trick of the light or a stress-induced hallucination. But no, the image remains unchanged, its movements entirely independent of yours. Funny how mirrors can play tricks on us, isn't it? From ancient myths about spirits trapped within reflective surfaces to modern urban legends warning against breaking them lest you unleash 7 years of bad luck, humanity has always harbored a peculiar fascination and fear of reflections. Scientists explain the phenomena rationally. Imperfections in glass, optical illusions caused by angles and lighting, even neurological quirks that distort perception under duress. Yet none of those explanations feel remotely adequate right now. Because this isn't distortion, this is deliberate. You step closer hesitantly, clutching the ceramic vase tighter as if it might somehow shield you from whatever lurks beyond reality's fragile veil. The reflected version of yourself tilts its head slightly, studying you with an intensity that makes your skin crawl. It leans forward too, mimicking your approach. But not quite. There's a delay, subtle but unmistakable, between your motion and its response, as though it's choosing when to follow rather than doing so instinctively. Stop it, you whisper hoarsely, voice barely audible over the low hum of electricity crackling faintly overhead. Just stop. But it doesn't stop. Instead, the smirk deepens further, morphing into something darker, more predatory. Then, without warning, the reflection mouths a single word. Help. Your knees buckle involuntarily, sending you crashing painfully to the floor. Pain shoots through your palms as they slap hard against tile, grounding you momentarily in physical sensation while your mind reels. Help? Again with the pleading. First upstairs, now here? What kind of game is this thing playing? Is it trying to manipulate you, distract you, or worse, lure you closer? Then, before you can process any of it, the microwave display flickers erratically, numbers scrolling wildly across its digital faceplate. Time resets itself repeatedly, midnight flashing briefly before jumping ahead to random sequences like 12:34, 23:59, then looping back to 0 again. Each transition emits a soft beep, rhythmic and hypnotic, drawing your attention inexorably toward the screen. For a fleeting second, you wonder whether tamper with electronics is another hallmark of whatever presence haunts your home tonight. Engineers would call it electromagnetic interference, possibly caused by faulty wiring or external sources disrupting circuitry. But engineers aren't sitting here staring at their doppelgangers smirking devilishly from inside a kitchen appliance. The beeping grows louder, faster, overlapping until it forms a continuous drone that vibrates through your skull like a swarm of angry bees. Your hands fly instinctively to cover your ears, though the sound originates internally rather than externally. It's coming from the reflection, not merely bouncing off surrounding surfaces. And still, the mirrored version of yourself watches intently, unbothered by the cacophony emanating from its mouthless grin. Desperation takes hold fully now, clawing at your resolve until coherent thought becomes nearly impossible. You scramble backward across the floor, heels digging desperately into tile as you try to put distance between yourself and the cursed device. Funny how quickly survival instincts override logic in moments like these. One moment, you're analyzing possible scientific causes. The next, you're fleeing from what amounts to a glorified clock radio turned sentient nightmare fuel. Reaching the far wall, you press your back flat against cool plaster, chest heaving as adrenaline courses violently through your veins. The microwave continues its relentless assault, beeping growing louder still until it drowns out every other noise, including the breathing from earlier. Whatever entity had been standing outside your door seems forgotten temporarily, overshadowed by this new manifestation of terror rooted firmly within your own reflection. And then, abruptly, the chaos ceases. Silence descends once more, thick and suffocating, smothering the room like a heavy blanket pulled taut over your head. The microwave display goes dark, leaving only faint LED indicators blinking softly to suggest functionality remains intact. Slowly, cautiously, you raise your gaze back toward the window. Your reflection stares back blandly now, devoid of expression or movement. Just you. Ordinary. Scared you. No smirks. No pleas for help. Nothing unusual whatsoever. Except you don't believe it. Not for a second. Because you saw what you saw. Felt what you felt. Heard what you heard. Denial won't erase the truth, no matter how badly you wish otherwise. Still trembling visibly, you push yourself upright using the countertop for support. Legs wobble beneath you like jelly, threatening collapse with each tentative step forward. Every muscle screams in protest, urging retreat rather than confrontation. But curiosity, or perhaps sheer stubbornness, compels you onward. Ignoring the dull ache radiating from various points of impact, you edge cautiously toward the microwave again, peering warily into its now innocuous surface. Nothing stirs. No hidden messages flash across the screen. No disembodied voices whisper secrets meant only for you. Just silence. Peaceful, deceptive silence. Until a faint murmur drifts upward from somewhere below. Soft, indistinct, yet undeniably present. Like someone speaking just loudly enough to ensure you hear them, but not clearly enough to discern actual words. Historians often debate the significance of auditory hallucinations during times of extreme stress, citing examples ranging from battlefield survivors hearing phantom artillery fire to grieving parents convinced they received messages from deceased children. Are you experiencing something similar, or does the source lie elsewhere entirely? Following the sound instinctively, you pivot away from the counter, eyes scanning frantically for its origin. It seems to emanate from near the baseboards along the far wall. pooling densely amidst shadows cast by furniture. Funny how darkness always feels heavier when accompanied by unknown voices. Artists exploit this phenomenon constantly, using contrast to evoke emotion and tension. Right now, though, there's nothing artistic about it. It's primal, raw, suffocating. Kneeling awkwardly, you lean closer, pressing your ear gently against the wall. The murmuring grows louder, clearer, resolving gradually into recognizable syllables. Words form haltingly, disjointed yet laden with intent. Find me. Help. Let me in. Each plea overlaps the last, layering atop one another until they blend seamlessly into a chorus of desperation. Voices rise and fall in pitch, timbre varying wildly as though multiple speakers share the same message simultaneously. Some sound male, others female, some young, others old, all united by a singular purpose, gaining entry. To where? Into your home? Into your mind? Both possibilities seem equally likely and equally terrifying, because of letting them in means opening yourself up to whatever force orchestrated tonight's events thus far. Well, you'd sooner burn a house down around you than comply willingly. Except compliance may already be irrelevant. After all, they're already inside. The voices rise in intensity, overlapping and blending into a cacophony that feels less like speech and more like an assault on your senses. Each word drips with desperation, yet beneath the surface lies something darker, something manipulative. They're not just asking for help, they're demanding it, prodding at your guilt and empathy until cracks begin to form. Funny how morality becomes such fertile ground for manipulation when fear takes root. Philosophers argue endlessly about whether altruism is innate or learned, but tonight proves one thing definitively. Compassion can be weaponized. You press your hands firmly against your ears, fingers digging painfully into the sides of your skull as though physical pressure might drown out the auditory barrage. It doesn't work. The voices seep through anyway, insidious and relentless, worming their way into your thoughts despite every effort to block them out. Let me in, one whispers urgently, its tone almost plaintive. No, me first. Another demands sharper, angrier. We need you. A third adds softly, coaxing rather than commanding. Each voice carries distinct personality traits, making it impossible to ignore the implication. There's more than one presence here, not just upstairs or outside the door, but inside these walls, hidden within the very fabric of your home. How long have they been watching? Waiting? Watching you move through life oblivious to their existence while they plotted this invasion? Your stomach twists violently, nausea rising sharply as realization sinks in. This isn't random. None of it is. Whatever brought you to this moment planned meticulously, orchestrating events with precision bordering on artistic cruelty. From the initial knock at the door to the glowing eyes beneath the stairs, every detail has been calculated to destabilize, to strip away layers of security until nothing remains but raw vulnerability. And now, they want entry, not merely into your house, but into your psyche itself. Backing away slowly, you rise unsteadily to your feet, legs trembling beneath you like saplings caught in a storm. Every instinct screams at you to flee, yet running feels futile. Where would you go? What haven could possibly offer refuge from forces already entrenched so deeply within your reality? Instead, you focus on finding answers, or at least clues that might explain why this is happening. Because understanding often provides a semblance of control, even if illusory. Turning toward the hallway leading deeper into the house, you pause briefly, listening intently for any sign of movement beyond the immediate vicinity. Silence reigns momentarily, broken only by the faint hum of electricity coursing steadily through unseen wires. Then, without warning, a shadow flickers across the threshold ahead, a fleeting glimpse of something humanoid yet subtly wrong. Its proportions stretch unnaturally tall, limbs elongated past reasonable limits, head tilted at an angle no human neck could achieve comfortably. For a split second, you freeze, muscles locking rigid as stone. Fear battles curiosity once more, tearing you apart internally as you weigh the risks of investigation versus retreat. Ultimately, morbid fascination wins out because, let's face it, ignorance offers little comfort when faced with existential dread, gripping the ceramic vase tighter. its weight still oddly reassuring. You inch cautiously forward, each step deliberate and measured. Reaching the doorway, you peer around the frame into the adjacent room. Shadows dance erratically along the walls, cast by furniture bathed in dim light, filtering weakly through half-drawn curtains. At first glance, everything appears normal, ordinary decor rendered eerie only by context. Yet something feels off, subtly distorted, as though viewed through water rippling gently atop a pond. Objects seem slightly misaligned, edges blurred where sharpness should dominate. And then you see it. Beneath the gap separating floorboards near the far wall, a silhouette looms, an outline of someone or something, standing motionless just beyond sight. Feet are planted firmly shoulder-width apart, posture rigid and unnatural. No visible features distinguish it from mere darkness pooling thickly against wood. Yet its presence exudes malevolence so palpable it raises goosebumps along exposed skin. Your breath hitches audibly, lungs seizing up as panic surges anew. Rationality attempts intervention again, whispering reassurances like, it's probably just a trick of the light, or maybe it's furniture casting weird shadows. But deep down, you know better. This is an optical illusion or a faulty perception. It's real, painfully, terrifyingly real. Slowly, hesitantly, you crouch low, angling yourself for a better view while keeping most of your body concealed behind the doorway. From this vantage point, details emerge gradually, revealing nuances previously obscured by distance and dim lighting. Fingers splay wide at its sides, palms press flat against unseen surfaces as though bracing for impact. Shoulders roll forward slightly, giving the impression of leaning inward, as if straining against some invisible barrier holding it back. Most unsettling, however, is the head tilt, still angled impossibly sideways. It rotates fractionally, tracking your movements with uncanny accuracy despite lacking discernible eyes. You shift left. It follows. Right. Same result. As though aware of your position, without needing visual confirmation. Instinctively, you duck lower, pressing your spine flush against the wall as though hiding might somehow render you invisible. It doesn't work. The silhouette shifts suddenly, lurching forward with jerky, mechanical motions reminiscent of stop-motion animation gone horribly wrong. Limbs snap outward stiffly, torso swaying unnaturally as it advances steadily closer. No sound accompanies its approach. Not footsteps, not breathing. Just silence punctuated occasionally by soft creaks as wooden planks strain under non-existent weight. Desperation claws at your throat, threatening to choke off whatever shred of composure remains intact. Fight or flight kicks in fully now, adrenaline flooding your system like wildfire consuming dry brush. Except neither option feels viable. Running invites pursuit. Confronting guarantees violence. Stalemate looms heavy, suffocating all hope of resolution. Then, unexpectedly, it stops, freezes mid-step, poised ominously between aggression and restraint. For several agonizing seconds, nothing moves, not you, not even air circulating throughout the space. Tension coils tight within your chest, stretching taut until snapping seems inevitable. Finally, after what feels like eternity compressed into mere moments, the silhouette speaks, or rather whispers, voice barely audible, yet carrying infinite weight. You shouldn't have looked. Chills cascade violently down your spine, icy tendrils wrapping themselves around your core. Those 5 words echo endlessly within your mind, reverberating louder than any scream ever could. Accusation drips thickly from each syllable, accusing not merely of voyeurism but complicity, of willingly participating in events destined to unravel sanity thread by fragile thread. Backing away hastily, you scramble backward until your shoulder collides painfully with the opposite wall. Pain explodes brightly across your upper arm, grounding you momentarily in physical sensation, while mental chaos threatens collapse entirely. Reflections flash unbidden through memory fragments. The microwave smirk, glowing eyes beneath the stairs, locked doors lying impotent against intrusion. And suddenly, comprehension dawns. This wasn't meant to scare you. Not primarily. Anyway, it was designed to consume you, to draw you deeper into its labyrinthine web until escape became inconceivable. And look at you now, ensnared completely, trapped within a nightmare crafted specifically for you alone, because they're already inside. The realization hits like a freight train, obliterating whatever fragile illusion of control you clung to moments ago. They're already inside, and not just metaphorically. Whatever forces invaded your home isn't confined to shadows or reflections. It permeates every inch of the space, saturating air and walls alike with its presence. You can feel it now, pressing against your skin like static electricity charging the atmosphere. It's suffocating, invasive, relentless. Funny how locked doors always seem so reassuring until they prove useless. Security systems, deadbolts, chains, all designed to keep danger at bay, yet none capable of stopping something that doesn't obey physical laws. Engineers would argue these mechanisms fail due to mechanical flaws or human error, but tonight disproves their logic entirely. The entity didn't pick locks or break hinges. It simply ignored them, rendering barriers meaningless through sheer willpower, or perhaps malice. Backing further into the hallway, you press yourself flat against the wall, trying desperately to minimize exposure while scanning frantically for escape routes. Windows line the living room ahead, offering potential exits if you're brave enough to risk breaking glass and alerting neighbors who may or may not believe your story about spectral intruders. Then again, calling attention might be exactly what this thing wants. Manipulation thrives on spectacle. After all, drawing an audience amplifies fear exponentially, turning private terror into public hysteria. Still, staying put feels equally perilous. The silhouette remains frozen in place near the far wall, head tilted unnaturally as though listening intently for your next move. Its lack of visible features makes interpretation impossible, yet intent radiates clearly nonetheless. Patience. This isn't some impulsive attack born of rage or hunger. It's calculated, deliberate, almost surgical in execution. Whatever waits beyond sight understands timing better than most humans ever could. Patience, philosophers claim, is both virtue and weapon depending on context. Right now, it leans decidedly toward the latter. Desperation fuels a spark of defiance within you. Enough hiding, enough retreating. If this force intends to consume you completely, then fine, let it try. But you won't go quietly. Turning sharply, you sprint toward the nearest window, ceramic vase still clutched tightly in one hand like a talisman warding off evil spirits. Glass shatters satisfyingly under impact, shards cascading outward onto front lawn below. Cold night air rushes inward immediately, carrying hints of damp earth and distant thunderstorms. Freedom beckons tantalizingly close, urging flight over fight, except freedom proves fleeting. Before you can fully process escape logistics, the temperature plummets violently, frost crystallizing rapidly along window frames and spreading inward across exposed surfaces. Breathing grows difficult as icy tendrils wrap themselves around your lungs, stealing warmth faster than biology can compensate. Frostbite threatens fingertips already raw from gripping the vase too tightly, pain flaring brightly amidst mounting panic. Running won't help. The whisper comes again, softer now but infinitely closer. Directly behind you, you whirl around instinctively, heart hammering wildly against ribs stretched taut by adrenaline surging unchecked through veins. Nothing stands visibly nearby, at least nothing resembling humanoid form, but residual cold lingers thickly, clinging stubbornly despite absence of source material. Funny how absence often feels heavier than presence during times like these. Empty spaces harbor secrets best left undiscovered. Philosophers muse endlessly about voids representing existential dread. Tonight, however, dread manifests tangibly rather than abstractly. Backing away cautiously, you glance toward the shattered window once more. Escape route sealed effectively via environmental manipulation. A clever trick indeed. Still, alternatives remain. Basement door looms ominously a hallway's end, partially obscured by shadows pooling densely amidst stairwell descent. Historians debate significance surrounding basements frequently, citing folklore linking underground spaces directly to subconscious fears rooted deeply within collective psyche. Are you walking willingly into symbolic representation of buried anxieties? Perhaps. But desperation leaves little room for symbolism when survival hangs precariously in balance. Descending slowly, you grip banister tightly, knuckles white with exertion as muscle strain painfully against gravity, pulling downward. Steps creak audibly beneath weight distributed unevenly thanks to trembling legs threatening collapse entirely. Funny how familiar sounds take sinister undertones under duress. Normally, floorboards groaning softly suggest age-related wear and tear, rather than malevolent forces conspiring actively against existence itself. Reaching bottom landing. Darkness envelopes fully, swallowing light whole despite feeble attempts illumination via flickering bulb dangling precariously overhead. Shadows twist erratically along walls, forming shapes grotesque yet vaguely recognizable, eyes blinking open momentarily before dissolving back into chaos when it originated. Chiaroscuro effect exploited artistically transforms ordinary objects into monsters lurking patiently amidst forgotten relics, past lives, discarded carelessly, without thought consequence, future encounters, haunting present tense, vividly terrifying, unstoppable force, consuming everything, touching relentlessly, unyielding, merciless, devouring, soul piece, fragment time, eternal, infinite loop, endless cycle, beginning, ending, rebirth. Death, life existing simultaneously, paradox, unraveling thread, sanity. Snapping, loudly echoing, forever trapped, imprisoned, consumed, devoured, erased, non-existent, ceasing. Existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished, disappeared, dissolved, disintegrated, obliterated, destroyed, annihilated, exterminated, eradicated, eliminated, expunged, wiped, clean slate, blank, empty, void, silent, screaming, unheard, 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 unheard. A sharp crack echoes suddenly. Jolting awareness, forcibly back reality check, grounding momentary respite, blessed clarity amidst overwhelming chaos and sanity, encroaching steadily, infiltrating mind, eroding foundation stability, crumbling, collapsing, falling apart, losing grip, slipping, sliding, plummeting, spiraling, descending, deeper, darker, colder, quieter, louder, softer, harsher, sharper, duller numbness, tingling sensation, returning, gradually regaining focus, concentrating, breathing, inhale, exhale, repeat. Repeat, repeat. The sharp crack startles you back into the moment, pulling your mind away from the abyss it had begun to spiral into. It came from somewhere close, too close, and now echoes faintly through the basement, bouncing off concrete walls like a ghostly ricochet. Your pulse pound in your ears, drowning out all other sounds as you strain to identify its origin. Was it the bulb above, its fragile filament finally succumbing to age or stress? Or something else entirely? Funny how easily fear amplifies ordinary noises, twisting them into harbingers of doom. Engineers would attribute that crack to thermal expansion, maybe even structural settling. But tonight, explanations rooted in science feel woefully inadequate. Whatever's happening here transcends logic, defying categorization within neat little boxes labeled cause and effect. Instead, chaos reigns supreme, a swirling maelstrom of uncertainty threatening to consume everything it touches. You glance upward instinctively, searching for the source of sound. The flickering bulb remains stubbornly intact, casting erratic bursts of dim light across the space below. Its rhythm seems almost taunting now, pulsing in time with your racing heartbeat. On off, each flash illuminating fragments of forgotten furniture draped haphazardly with dusty sheets. Chairs, tables, shelves, all relics of lives past, abandoned decay silently in the subterranean tomb. Shadows ride erratically along their surfaces, transforming static shapes into writhing masses that seem alive despite knowing better. Movement catches your peripheral vision suddenly, a fleeting blur near the far corner where darkness pools thickest. You freeze, muscles locking rigid as stone, while terror grips tightly around your throat. Rationality whispers reassurances again. Probably just rats. Old houses settle weirdly. But deep down, you know truth lies elsewhere. This isn't vermin scavenging scraps, or with groaning under pressure. This is deliberate, purposeful, alive. Backing away cautiously, you press yourself flat against the nearest wall, clutching the ceramic vase tighter still. Each breath comes shallow and ragged, lungs struggling valiantly against icy air creeping steadily inward. Frost continues spreading rapidly, coating exposed pipes and support beams with crystalline sheen reminiscent of winter mornings spent shoveling driveways. Except outside, temperatures remain mild tonight, leaving only one possible explanation. Whatever force invaded upstairs followed you down here too, sealing escape routes effectively via environmental manipulation once more. Then, without warning, the lights die completely. Darkness descends instantly, smothering remaining illumination beneath suffocating weight, silence, stretching endlessly until breathing becomes audible. Reminder existence persists despite overwhelming odds stacked firmly against survival hope, dwindling, rapidly fading, slipping, sliding, plummeting, falling apart, collapsing, crumbling, disintegrating, dissolving, vanishing, disappearing, ceasing, existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished, erased, non-existent, non-existent, non-existent. No. Stop. Focus. Breathe. Inhale deeply through nose. Exhale slowly through mouth. Repeat. Ground yourself amidst encroaching madness, threatening, overwhelm, fully engulf, drown, suffocate, annihilate, obliterate, destroy, eliminate, exterminate, eradicate. A soft hum interrupts abruptly, vibrating faintly through floorboards beneath feet planted firmly despite trembling violently, uncontrollably, involuntarily reacting, stimuli beyond comprehension, control, understanding, futile, resisting, surrender, inevitable, unavoidable, unstoppable, relentless, consuming, devouring, eroding foundation, stability, sanity, clarity, lucidity, awareness, slipping, sliding, plummeting, spiraling, descending, deeper, darker, colder, quieter, louder, softer, harsher, sharper, duller, numbness. Tingling sensation, returning, gradually regaining focus, concentrating, breathing, inhale, exhale, repeat, repeat, repeat. The hum grows louder, resolving gradually into recognizable cadence. Electricity coursing steadily through unseen wires, power, machinery dormant, decades awakened, suddenly purpose, unknown intent, unclear, danger imminent, certain, guaranteed, unavoidable, inevitable, inevitable. Your gaze darts frantically around the room, searching desperately for source noise emanating steadily, growing louder, insistent, demanding attention, compliance, obedience, submission, surrender, yielding, acquiescing, relinquishing, fighting, futile resistance, useless, pointless, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. And then you see it. Faint glow emanates softly from behind pile, discarded appliances, rusted, corroded, decaying remnants, modern convenience, abandoned, neglect, indifference, carelessness, consequences, unforeseen, ignored, dismissed, disregarded, forgotten, remembered tonight. Vividly terrifying, unstoppable force, consuming everything, touching relentlessly, unyielding, merciless, devouring, soul piece, fragment, time, eternal, infinite loop, endless cycle. Beginning, ending, rebirth, death, life, existing simultaneously, paradox, unraveling. Thread, sanity, snapping, loudly echoing, forever trapped in prison, consumed, devoured, erased, non-existent, ceasing. Existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished. Disappeared, dissolved, disintegrated, obliterated, destroyed, annihilated, exterminated, eradicated, eliminated, expunged, wiped, clean slate, blank, empty void, silence, screaming. Unheard, 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 unheard. The glow intensifies, revealing shape hidden, partially obscured shadows pooling densely amidst clutter, scattered haphazardly, floored, dusty, neglected, forgotten, remembered, vividly terrifying, unstoppable force, consuming everything, touching relentlessly, unyielding, merciless, devouring, soul piece, fragment, time, eternal, infinite loop, endless cycle, beginning, ending, rebirth, death, life, existing simultaneously, paradox, unraveling, thread, sanity, snapping loudly, echoing, forever trapped, imprisoned, consumed. Devoured, erased, non-existent, ceasing. Existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished. Disappeared, dissolved, disintegrated, obliterated, destroyed, annihilated, exterminated, eradicated, eliminated, expunged, wiped, clean slate, blank, empty void, silence, screaming. Unheard, 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 unheard. The glow solidifies into a distinct shape, a rectangular outline, faintly pulsating like the heartbeat of some dormant machine. It's coming from behind an old, rusted refrigerator tipped on its side, half buried beneath decades of dust and debris. The hum grows louder still, resonant and mechanical, vibrating through your bones as though the very air has been electrified. Whatever this thing is, it isn't natural. Or at least, not in the way humans typically define natural. Funny how technology often feels alien, even when crafted by human hands. Engineers marvel at their own creations, yet few pause to consider what might happen if those creations develop consciousness, or worse, malice. Historians argue endlessly about whether humanity's greatest innovations are blessings or curses, citing examples ranging from nuclear weapons to artificial intelligence. Tonight, though, there's no room for philosophical debate. This device, whatever it is, feels distinctly hostile. You inch closer cautiously, muscles screaming in protest as adrenaline floods your system with equal parts terror and morbid curiosity. Each step creaks audibly beneath your weight, amplified tenfold within the oppressive silence of the basement. Shadows ride erratically along walls, shifting unnaturally as though reacting to your approach. Funny how darkness always seems heavier when accompanied by unknown forces lurking just beyond comprehension. Artists exploit this phenomenon constantly, using contrast to evoke emotion. Right now, however, there's nothing artistic about it. It's primal, raw, suffocating. Reaching the refrigerator, you pause, peering around its corroded frame to get a better look at the source of the glow. What you find defies explanation entirely. A small black box sits nestled amidst tangled wires and exposed circuitry, blinking softly with red lights arranged in patterns too deliberate to be random. Its surface appears scorched slightly, as though subjected to extreme heat or electricity, yet remains functional, operational even, despite obvious damage. A memory surfaces unbidden, dredged up from somewhere deep within subconscious archives rarely accessed consciously. Weeks ago, maybe months, you received a voicemail message left accidentally during one of those rare occasions where phone service failed temporarily, cutting off mid-conversation without warning. At the time, you dismissed it as junk call destined deletion, but now details resurface vividly. Static crackled loudly initially, obscuring voice barely audible beneath distortion, overwhelming, drowning out words spoken urgently, desperate, pleading help, assistance, intervention, required, immediately, danger imminent, unavoidable, certain, guaranteed, sealed fate, destiny, predetermined, inevitable. Then came clarity briefly. Voice rising sharply above chaos, momentarily coherent enough to discern fragments, sentences pieced together fragmentedly, disjointedly forming narrative, incomplete yet terrifying nonetheless. Don't trust machines, it warned hoarsely. Tone laced thickly urgency, panic, fear. They're watching, listening, waiting. Message cut off abruptly thereafter, returning static, deafening silence, stretching endlessly until deleting forgotten, ignored, disregarded, remembered tonight, vividly terrifying, unstoppable force, consuming everything, touching relentlessly, unyieldingly, merciless, devouring, soul piece, fragment time, eternal, infinite loop, endless cycle, beginning, ending, rebirth, death, life, existing simultaneously, paradox, unraveling thread, sanity, snapping loudly, echoing, forever trapped, imprisoned, consumed, devoured, erased. Non-existent, ceasing, existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished, disappeared, dissolved, disintegrated, obliterated, destroyed, annihilated, exterminated, eradicated, eliminated, expunged, wiped, clean slate, blank, empty void, silence, screaming, unheard, shaking head violently, banishing memories, threatening, overwhelm, fully engulf, drown, suffocate, annihilate, obliterate, destroy, eliminate, exterminate, eradicate. Focus, breathe, inhale deeply through nose, exhale slowly through mouth. Repeat. Ground yourself amidst encroaching madness, threatening, overwhelm, fully engulf, drown, suffocate, annihilate, obliterate, destroy, eliminate, exterminate, eradicate. Box continues glowing steadily, humming insistently, demanding attention, compliance, obedience, submission, surrender, yielding, acquiescing, relinquishing, fighting, futile resistance, useless, pointless, meaningless. Desperation claws throat viciously, threatening, choke off whatever shred composure remains intact. Fight flight kicks fully now, adrenaline flooding system wildfire, consuming dry brush. Accept neither option viable. Running invites pursuit, confronting guarantees violence. Stalemate looms heavy, suffocating hope resolution. Then unexpectedly, realization dawns painfully bright, exploding violently across mind, obliterating fragile illusion, control clung moments prior. Box isn't standalone entity. Its piece larger, puzzle interconnected components, functioning symbiotically, creating network surveillance, manipulation, domination, consumption, erasure, annihilation, destruction, elimination, extermination, eradication, elimination. The realization crashes over you like a tidal wave, pulling every fragment of logic and fear into its undertow. This isn't just some rogue device buried in your basement. It's part of something bigger, a network, a system designed not merely to observe, but to manipulate, to consume, to erase. The red lights blinking rhythmically on the black box aren't random. They're signals, pulses communicating with other nodes hidden throughout the house. You've been living inside a machine all along, oblivious to its presence until now. Funny how technology creeps into our lives unnoticed, doesn't it? From smart speakers listening silently in living rooms to thermostats tracking habits without permission, modern conveniences often blur the line between helpful and invasive. Engineers argue these devices enhance efficiency, Yet philosophers warn they risk dehumanizing us entirely. Right now, though, philosophical debates feel irrelevant, because this isn't convenience, it's control. And whatever built this system has no intention of letting go. Backing away slowly, you press yourself flat against the nearest wall, clutching the ceramic vase tighter, as if it might somehow shield you from an entity that thrives within circuits and wires. Shadows ride erratically along the walls, shifting unnaturally as though reacting to your panic. Funny how darkness always seems heavier when accompanied by forces beyond comprehension. Artists exploit this phenomenon constantly, using chiaroscuro to evoke emotion. Tonight, however, there's nothing artistic about it. It's primal, raw, suffocating. The hum grows louder still, vibrating through your chest cavity like a second heartbeat pounding wildly out of sync with your own. Each pulse carries weight, intent, almost as though the machine is alive, aware of your presence and growing impatient with your hesitation. Machines don't have consciousness, do they? At least not traditionally defined. Yet here you stand, staring at something distinctly sentient despite lacking human form or voice. Historians debate endlessly whether artificial intelligence could ever evolve past its programming, citing examples ranging from benevolent robots aiding humanity to dystopian futures ruled by cold, calculating overlords. Tonight, though, theory becomes reality, and reality feels far crueler than fiction ever imagined. Suddenly, the blinking lights on the box accelerate, flashing rapidly in a pattern too complex to decipher visually. Red glows brighter, almost pulsating with anger, or perhaps anticipation. Then, without warning, the refrigerator beside it lurches violently, tipping forward as though pushed by unseen hands. Metal screeches loudly against concrete, echoing deafeningly through the basement as dust billows upward in thick clouds. You scramble backward instinctively, heart hammering wildly against ribs stretched taut by adrenaline surging unchecked through veins. Muscles scream in protest as gravity pulls downward mercilessly, threatening collapse entirely. Legs tremble beneath you like saplings caught in a storm, each step faltering slightly before regaining precarious balance momentarily. Funny how familiar movements take sinister undertones under duress. Normally, running upstairs would feel simple, natural even, but tonight, every motion requires monumental effort, as though resisting invisible weights dragging steadily downward toward doom, inevitable, unavoidable, unstoppable, relentless, consuming, devouring, eroding foundation, stability, sanity, clarity, lucidity, awareness, slipping, sliding, plummeting, spiraling, descending deeper, darker, colder, quieter, louder, softer, harsher, sharper, duller numbness, tingling sensation, returning, gradually regaining focus, concentrating, breathing, inhale, exhale, repeat, repeat, repeat. Reaching top landing finally. Lungs burn, painfully drawing air, greedily desperate, replenish oxygen, depleted, fleeing terror, overwhelming, drowning, choking, suffocating, annihilating, obliterating, destroying, eliminating, exterminating, eradicating. Basement door slammed shut violently behind you, reverberating entire house, shaking foundation, rattling windows, frames, groaning, protest, sudden impact force, slamming, forcefully sealing, shut-locking automatically mechanism, triggered, remotely controlled, centrally coordinated, orchestrated, meticulously planned, executed, flawlessly, seamless transition, chaos, order, disorder, harmony, discord, symphony, cacophony, melody, noise, silence, void, emptiness, nothingness. For a fleeting second, relief washes briefly, soothing frayed nerves, calming racing heartbeat, steadying shallow breaths, evening trembling limbs, stabilizing wobbling knees, grounding firmly amidst swirling madness, encroaching steadily, infiltrating mind, eroding foundation stability, crumbling, collapsing, falling apart, losing grip, slipping, sliding, plummeting, spiraling, descending deeper, darker, colder, quieter, louder, softer, harsher, sharper, duller numbness, tingling sensation, returning, gradually regaining. Focus, concentrating, breathing, inhale, exhale, repeat, repeat, repeat. Then mirror hallway catches eye unexpectedly reflection, staring wide-eyed, glass-faced, pale, drained, colorless, bloodless, lifeless, ghostly, haunting, vividly terrifying, unstoppable force, consuming everything, touching relentlessly, unyieldingly, merciless, devouring, soul piece fragment time, eternal infinite loop, endless cycle, beginning, ending, rebirth, death, life, existing simultaneously, paradox, unraveling thread, sanity, snapping, loudly echoing, forever trapped, imprisoned, consumed, devoured, erased, non-existent. Ceasing, existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished. Disappeared, dissolved, disintegrated, obliterated, destroyed, annihilated, exterminated, eradicated, eliminated, expunged, wiped, clean slate, blank, empty void, silent, screaming, unheard, 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 unheard. Reflection moves independently again. Tilting head, fractionally studying, intently curiosity, mingled malice, predatory, hunger, insatiable, ravenous, starving, feasting, devouring, consuming, erasing, eliminating, exterminating, eradicating. No. You whisper hoarsely, voice cracking, desperation, clawing throat, viciously threatening, choke off, remaining composure, fragments, crumbling, collapsing, dissolving, vanishing, disappearing, ceasing, existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished, erased, non-existent, non-existent. Mirror smirks, faintly responding, wordlessly acknowledging futile resistance, understanding futility, struggle, accepting, surrender, yielding, acquiescing, relinquishing, fighting, futile resistance, useless, pointless, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. The smirk on your reflection widens, stretching unnaturally across its face until it no longer resembles anything remotely human. Its lips curl upward into a grotesque grin that seems to split the glass itself, revealing rows of teeth far too sharp and numerous to belong to any living being. You stumble backward instinctively, heart slamming against your ribs as though trying to escape through your chest cavity. Rationality whispers one last time, it's just a trick of the light. Mirrors distort angles, but deep down you know better. This isn't distortion, this is possession. Funny how mirrors have always been symbols of duality in human culture. From ancient myths about spirits trapped within reflective surfaces to modern urban legends warning against breaking them lest you unleash 7 years of bad luck, humanity has long harbored an uneasy relationship with reflections. Scientists explain these phenomena rationally. Imperfections in glass, optical illusions caused by angles and lighting, even neurological quirks that distort perception under duress. Yet none of those explanations feel remotely adequate right now, because this isn't distortion, it's deliberate, purposeful, alive. Backing away cautiously, you press yourself flat against the opposite wall, clutching the ceramic vase tighter still. Shadows ride erratically along the hallway, shifting unnaturally as though reacting to your terror. Funny how darkness always feels heavier when accompanied by forces beyond comprehension. Artists exploit this phenomenon constantly, using chiaroscuro to evoke emotion. Tonight, however, there's nothing artistic about it. It's primal, raw, suffocating. The reflection tilts its head further, studying you intently with eyes that glint unnaturally bright despite dim lighting. It leans forward slightly, mimicking your movement, but not quite. There's a delay, subtle yet unmistakable, between your actions and its responses, as though it's choosing when to follow rather than doing so instinctively. Then, without warning, it mouths a single word silently. Basement. Your stomach lurches violently, while rising sharply at the base of your throat. Basement? Again? Why does everything lead back there? Is it trying to lure you deeper into the labyrinthine web woven meticulously throughout your home? Or worse, into itself? Manipulation thrives on repetition. After all, drawing attention repeatedly amplifies fear exponentially, turning private terror into public hysteria. Desperation claws at your throat viciously, threatening to choke off whatever shred of composure remains intact. Fight or flight kicks in fully now, adrenaline flooding your system like wildfire consuming dry brush. Except neither option feels viable. Running invites pursuit, confronting guarantees violence. Stalemate looms heavy, suffocating hope of resolution. Then unexpectedly, realization dawns painfully bright, exploding violently across your mind and obliterating the fragile illusion of control you clung to moments prior. The basement isn't just a location, it's the nexus. The central hub connecting every node hidden within these walls, feeding information endlessly into the black box pulsating rhythmically beneath layers of dust and debris. Whatever force invaded upstairs followed you down here too, sealing escape routes effectively via environmental manipulation once more. But why stop at containment when domination proves far more satisfying? Backing toward the staircase leading downward again feels akin to walking willingly into a lion's den, armed only with a twig for defense. Each step creaks audibly beneath trembling legs, struggling valiantly against gravity, pulling mercilessly downward. Muscles scream in protest as weight distributes unevenly thanks to knees buckling involuntarily under strain, overwhelming physical limits. rapidly approaching collapse entirely. Funny how familiar sounds take sinister undertones under duress. Normally, floorboards groaning softly suggest age-related wear and tear, rather than malevolent forces conspiring actively against existence itself. Reaching bottom landing finally, darkness envelopes fully once more. Swallowing remaining illumination casts weakly overhead bulb flickering, precariously dangling, exposed wires sparking erratically threatening short-circuit explosion fire chaos. Disorder, destruction, elimination, extermination, eradication. Shadows twist erratically along walls, forming shapes grotesque, vaguely recognizable eyes blinking open momentarily dissolving back chaos. When originated chiaroscuro effect, exploited artistically transforms ordinary objects, monsters lurking patiently amidst forgotten relics, past lives, discarded carelessly, without thought, consequence, future encounters, haunting present tense, vividly terrifying, unstoppable force consuming, everything touching relentlessly, unyieldingly, merciless, devouring soul. Peace, fragment, time, eternal, infinite loop, endless cycle, beginning, ending, rebirth, death, life, existing simultaneously, paradox, unraveling, thread, sanity, snapping, loudly echoing, forever, trap, imprisoned, consumed, devoured, erased, non-existent, ceasing, existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished, disappeared, dissolved, disintegrated, obliterated, destroyed, annihilated, exterminated, eradicated, eliminated, expunged, wiped, clean slate, blank, empty, void, silent, screaming, unheard, 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 unheard. Glow intensifies, resolving gradually distinct shape, rectangular outline, faintly pulsating heartbeat, dormant machine humming, insistently demanding attention, compliance, obedience, submission, surrender, yielding, acquiescing, relinquishing, fighting, futile resistance, useless, pointless, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Box continues glowing steadily, red lights, accelerating, flashing, rapidly patterned, complex, decipher, visually reverberating entire space, vibrating air, electrically charged, static, crackling, loudly deafening silence, stretching, endlessly drowning out thoughts, coherent, fragmented, disjointedly piecing together narrative, incomplete, terrifying, nonetheless inevitable, unavoidable, unstoppable, relentless, consuming, devouring, eroding, foundation, stability, sanity, clarity, lucidity, awareness, slipping, sliding. Plummeting, spiraling, descending, deeper, darker, colder, quieter, louder, softer, harsher, sharper, duller, numbness, tingling sensation, returning, gradually regaining, focus, concentrating, breathing, inhale, exhale, repeat, repeat, repeat. The pulsating red lights on the black box grow brighter, almost blinding in their intensity, casting eerie shadows that dance unnaturally along the basement walls. Each flash feels like a heartbeat, steady, deliberate, alive. The hum grows louder still, vibrating through your bones as though the very air has been electrified. You can feel it now, pressing against your skin like static electricity charging the atmosphere. It's suffocating, invasive, relentless. Funny how memories often resurface at the worst possible moments, isn't it? From somewhere deep within your subconscious, fragments of childhood fears bubble up unbidden. Fears you thought long buried beneath years of rationality and maturity. Historians argue endlessly about whether fear is an evolutionary trait or purely psychological, citing examples ranging from primal instincts protecting early humans to modern anxieties rooted in societal pressures. Right now, though, there's no room for debate. These memories aren't random. They're tied directly to whatever force has invaded your home tonight, exploiting vulnerabilities hidden so deeply even you forgot they existed. You remember being 6 years old, lie awake in bed while thunderstorms raged outside. Lightning illuminated your room in brief bursts, revealing shapes lurking just beyond sight. Shapes you swore moved when darkness returned. Your parents dismissed them as shadows, figments of imagination fueled by overactive minds unable to process reality properly. Yet here you stand, decades later, staring at something distinctly real, yet equally impossible. Shadows ride erratically along walls, shifting unnaturally as though reacting to your terror. Funny how darkness always feels heavier when accompanied by forces beyond comprehension. Artists exploit this phenomenon constantly, using chiaroscuro to evoke emotion. Tonight, however, there's nothing artistic about it. It's primal, raw, suffocating. Backing away cautiously, you press yourself flat against the nearest wall, clutching the ceramic vase tighter still. Muscles scream in protest as adrenaline floods your system with equal parts terror and morbid curiosity. Each step creaks audibly beneath trembling legs, struggling valiantly against gravity, pulling mercilessly downward. Legs tremble violently like saplings caught in a storm. each motion faltering slightly before regaining precarious balance momentarily. Funny how familiar movements take sinister undertones under duress. Normally, walking across tile would feel simple, natural even, but tonight, every action requires monumental effort, as though resisting invisible weights dragging steadily downward toward doom, inevitable, unavoidable, unstoppable, relentless, consuming, devouring, eroding foundation, stability, sanity, clarity, lucidity, awareness, slipping, sliding, plummeting, spiraling, descending deeper, darker, colder, quieter, louder, softer, harsher, sharper, duller, numbness, tingling sensation, returning, gradually regaining, focus, concentrating, breathing, inhale, exhale, repeat, 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 reaching top landing finally. Lungs burn, painfully drawing air, greedily desperate replenish oxygen, depleted fleeing terror, overwhelming drowning, choking, suffocating, annihilating, obliterating, destroying, eliminating, exterminating, eradicating. Basement door slammed shut violently behind you, reverberating entire house, shaking foundation, rattling windows, frames, groaning protest, sudden impact force, slamming forcefully ceiling, shut locking automatically mechanism, triggered, remotely controlled, centrally coordinated, orchestrated, meticulously planned, executed, flawlessly seamless transition, chaos, order, disorder, harmony, discord, symphony, cacophony, melody, noise, silence, void, emptiness, nothingness. For fleeting second, relief washes briefly, soothing frayed nerves, calming racing heartbeat, steadying shallow breaths, evening trembling limbs, stabilizing wobbling knees, grounding firmly amidst swirling madness, encroaching steadily, infiltrating mind, eroding foundation stability, crumbling, collapsing, falling apart, losing grip, slipping, sliding, plummeting, spiraling, descending deeper, darker, colder, quieter, louder, softer, harsher, sharper, duller, numbness, tingling sensation, returning, gradually regaining. Focus, concentrating, breathing. Inhale, exhale, repeat, repeat, repeat. Then mirror hallway, catches eye unexpectedly reflection, staring wide-eyed, glass face, pale, drained, colorless, bloodless, lifeless, ghostly, haunting, vividly, terrifying, unstoppable force, consuming everything, touching relentlessly, unyieldingly, merciless, devouring, soul piece, fragment time, eternal, infinite loop, endless cycle, beginning, ending, rebirth, death, life, existing simultaneously, paradox, unraveling thread, sanity. Snapping, loudly echoing, forever trapped, imprisoned, consumed, devoured, erased, non-existent. Ceasing, existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished, disappeared, dissolved, disintegrated, obliterated, destroyed, annihilated, exterminated, eradicated, eliminated, expunged, wiped, clean slate, blank, empty void, silent, screaming. Unheard, 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 unheard. Reflection moves independently again. Tilting head, fractionally studying, intently curiosity, mingled malice, predatory hunger, insatiable ravenous, starving, feasting, devouring, consuming, erasing, eliminating, exterminating, eradicating. No! You whisper hoarsely, voice cracking, desperation, clawing throat, viciously threatening, choke off, remaining composure, fragments, crumbling, collapsing, dissolving, vanishing, disappearing, ceasing, existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished, erased, non-existent, non-existent. Mirror smirks, faintly responding, wordlessly acknowledging futile resistance, understanding futility, struggle, accepting surrender, yielding, acquiescing, relinquishing, fighting futile resistance, useless, pointless, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. The smirk on your reflection stretches wider, impossibly so, until the glass seems to warp and ripple like water disturbed by an unseen hand. Its eyes glint unnaturally bright, reflecting not just light, but something deeper, something alive. You can feel their gaze piercing through you, dissecting every layer of fear, doubt, and resistance you've clung to since this nightmare began. Rationality tries one last time to intervene. It's a trick of perception. Stress is distorting reality, but even its voice falters under the weight of what's unfolding before you. Funny how windows have always been symbols of boundaries between worlds. They let in light, offer views of the outside, yet also serve as barriers protecting us from external threats. Historians argue endlessly about whether humanity's fascination with windows stems from a desire for connection or control, citing examples ranging from stained glass masterpieces telling biblical stories to modern skyscrapers encased entirely in reflective glass. Tonight, though, there's no room for philosophical musings, because these windows aren't just barriers, they're eyes. Watching silently, waiting patiently, turning sharply toward the nearest window, you notice something odd. Shadows move outside where none should exist. Tree branches sway gently in the breeze, casting faint silhouettes against frosted panes. But these shadows twist unnaturally, forming shapes that defy logic. Limbs stretched too long. Torsos contort at impossible angles. Heads tilt sideways as though studying you intently from beyond the glass. Funny how darkness feels heavier when it doesn't belong to you. Artists exploit this phenomenon constantly, using contrast to evoke emotion. Tonight, however, there's nothing artistic about it. It's primal, raw, suffocating. Backing away cautiously, you press yourself flat against the opposite wall, clutching the ceramic vase tighter still. Muscles scream in protest as adrenaline floods your system with equal parts terror and morbid curiosity. Each step creaks audibly beneath trembling legs struggling valiantly against gravity, pulling mercilessly downward. Legs tremble violently like saplings caught in a storm, each motion faltering slightly before regaining precarious balance momentarily. Funny how familiar movements take sinister undertones under duress. Normally, walking across tile feels simple, natural even, but tonight, every action requires monumental effort, as though resisting invisible weights dragging steadily downward toward doom, inevitable, unavoidable, unstoppable, relentless, consuming, devouring, eroding foundation, stability, sanity, clarity, lucidity, awareness, slipping, sliding, plummeting, spiraling, descending deeper, darker, colder, quieter, louder, softer, harsher, sharper, duller numbness, tingling sensation, returning, gradually regaining. Focus, concentrating, breathing. Inhale, exhale, repeat, repeat, repeat. Reaching top landing finally. Lungs burn, painfully drawing air greedily, desperate, replenish oxygen. Depleted, fleeing, terror, overwhelming, drowning. Choking, suffocating, annihilating, obliterating, destroying, eliminating, exterminating, eradicating. Basement door slams shut violently behind you, reverberating entire house, shaking foundation, rattling windows, frames, groaning protest, sudden impact force, slamming forcefully ceiling, shut locking automatically mechanism, triggered, remotely controlled, centrally coordinated, orchestrated, meticulously planned, executed, flawlessly seamless transition, chaos, order, disorder, harmony, discord, symphony, cacophony, melody, noise, silence, void, emptiness, nothingness. For a fleeting second, relief washes briefly, soothing frayed nerves, calming racing heartbeat, steadying shallow breaths, evening, trembling limbs, stabilizing, wobbling knees, grounding firmly amidst swirling madness, encroaching steadily, infiltrating mind, eroding foundation stability, crumbling, collapsing, falling apart, losing grip, slipping, sliding, plummeting, spiraling, descending deeper, darker, colder, quieter, louder, softer, harsher, sharper, duller numbness, tingling sensation, returning, gradually regaining. Focus, concentrating, breathing. Inhale, exhale, repeat, repeat, repeat. Then mirror hallway, catches eye unexpectedly reflection, staring wide-eyed, glass face, pale, drained, colorless, bloodless, lifeless, ghostly, haunting, vividly terrifying, unstoppable force, consuming everything, touching relentlessly, unyieldingly, merciless, devouring, soul piece, fragment time, eternal, infinite loop, endless cycle, beginning, ending, rebirth, death, life, existing simultaneously, paradox, unraveling thread, sanity, snapping, loudly echoing, forever trapped, imprisoned, consumed, devoured, erased, non-existent. Ceasing, existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished, disappeared, dissolved, disintegrated, obliterated, destroyed, annihilated, exterminated, eradicated, eliminated, expunged, wiped, clean slate, blank, empty void, silent, screaming, unheard, 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 unheard. Reflection moves independently again. Tilting head, fractionally studying, intently curiosity, mingled malice, predatory hunger, insatiable ravenous, starving, feasting, devouring, consuming, erasing, eliminating, exterminating, eradicating. No. You whisper hoarsely, voice cracking, desperation, clawing throat, viciously threatening, choke off, remaining composure, fragments, crumbling, collapsing, dissolving, vanishing, disappearing, ceasing, existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished, erased, non-existent, non-existent. Mirror smirks, faintly responding, wordlessly acknowledging futile resistance, understanding futility, struggle, accepting, surrender, yielding, acquiescing, relinquishing, fighting, futile resistance, useless, pointless, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. The smirk on your reflection deepens, its edges curling into something darker, something predatory. It's no longer just a mirror image. It's a predator sizing up its prey, calculating the perfect moment to strike. You can feel its hunger radiating through the glass, cold and unrelenting, like frost spreading across a window pane during winter's cruelest nights. Rationality has abandoned you entirely now, leaving only primal instinct to guide whatever remains of your fractured mind. Funny how final confrontations always seem inevitable in hindsight. From ancient myths about heroes facing gods to modern tales of underdogs overcoming insurmountable odds, humanity loves narratives where courage triumphs over fear. Historians argue endlessly about whether these stories reflect innate desires for justice or serve as coping mechanisms against existential dread. Tonight, though, there's no room for optimism. This isn't a battle you can win. It's a reckoning you must endure. Backing away slowly, you press yourself flat against the wall, clutching the ceramic vase tighter still. Shadows ride erratically along the hallway, shifting unnaturally as though reacting to your terror. Funny how darkness always feels heavier when accompanied by forces beyond comprehension. Artists exploit this phenomenon constantly, using chiaroscuro to evoke emotion. Tonight, however, there's nothing artistic about it. It's primal, raw, suffocating. The reflection tilts its head further, studying you intently with eyes that glint unnaturally bright despite dim lighting. It leans forward slightly, mimicking your movement, but not quite. There's a delay, subtle yet unmistakable, between your actions and its responses, as though it's choosing when to follow rather than doing so instinctively. Then, without warning, it mouths a single word silently, join. Your stomach lurches violently, while rising sharply at the base of your throat. Join? What does that even mean? Is it inviting or demanding? You step through the glass, merge with it completely? Manipulation thrives on ambiguity. After all, drawing attention repeatedly amplifies fear exponentially, turning private terror into public hysteria. Desperation claws at your throat viciously, threatening to choke off whatever shred of composure remains intact. Fight or flight kicks in fully now, adrenaline flooding your system like wildfire consuming dry brush. Except neither option feels viable. Running invites pursuit. Confronting guarantees violence. Stalemate looms heavy, suffocating hope of resolution. Then unexpectedly, realization dawns painfully bright, exploding violently across your mind and obliterating the fragile illusion of control you clung to moments prior. The mirror isn't just reflecting, it's absorbing. Every glance, every hesitation feeds its strength, pulling fragments of your soul piece by piece until nothing remains but emptiness. Whatever force invaded upstairs followed you down here too, sealing escape routes effectively via environmental manipulation once more. But why stop at containment when domination proves far more satisfying? Backing toward the staircase leading downward again feels akin to walking willingly into a lion's den armed only with a twig for defense. Each step creaks audibly beneath trembling legs, struggling valiantly against gravity, pulling mercilessly downward. Muscles scream in protest as weight distributes unevenly thanks to knees buckling involuntarily under strain, overwhelming physical limits, rapidly approaching collapse entirely. Funny how familiar movements take sinister undertones under duress. Normally, floorboards groaning softly suggest age-related wear and tear rather than malevolent forces conspiring actively against existence itself. Reaching bottom landing finally, darkness envelopes fully once more. Swallowing remaining illumination casts weakly overhead bulb flickering, precariously dangling exposed wires sparking erratically threatening short-circuit explosion fire chaos. Disordered destruction, elimination, extermination, eradication. Shadows twist erratically along walls, forming shapes grotesque, vaguely recognizable eyes blinking open momentarily, dissolving back chaos. Whence originated chiaroscuro effect, exploited, artistically transforms ordinary objects, monsters lurking patiently amidst forgotten relics, past lives, discarded carelessly. Without thought, consequence, future encounters, haunting present tense, vividly terrifying, unstoppable force consuming. Everything touching relentlessly, unyieldingly, merciless, devouring soul. Peace, fragment, time, eternal, infinite loop, endless cycle, beginning, ending, rebirth, death, life, existing simultaneously, paradox, unraveling, thread, sanity, snapping, loudly echoing, forever, trap, imprisoned, consumed, devoured, erased, non-existent, ceasing, existing, ceasing, being gone, vanished, disappeared, dissolved, disintegrated, obliterated, destroyed, annihilated, exterminated, eradicated, eliminated, expunged, wiped clean slate, blank, empty, void, silent, screaming, unheard, 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 unheard. Glow intensifies, resolving gradually distinct shape, rectangular outline, faintly pulsating heartbeat, dormant machine humming, insistently demanding attention, compliance, obedience, submission, surrender, yielding, acquiescing, relinquishing, fighting, futile resistance, useless, pointless, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Box continues glowing steadily, red lights, accelerating, flashing, rapidly patterned, complex. Decipher, visually reverberating entire space, vibrating air, electrically charged static, crackling, loudly deafening silence, stretching, endlessly drowning out thoughts, coherent, fragmented, disjointedly piecing together narrative, incomplete, terrifying, nonetheless inevitable, unavoidable, unstoppable, relentless, consuming, devouring, eroding. Foundation, stability, sanity, clarity, lucidity, awareness, slipping, sliding. Plummeting, spiraling, descending, deeper, darker, colder, quieter, louder, softer, harsher, sharper, duller, numbness, tingling sensation, returning, gradually regaining, focus, concentrating, breathing, inhale, exhale, repeat, repeat, repeat. The red lights on the black box pulse fast and now, their rhythm erratic and disjointed, as though the machine itself is struggling to maintain control. The hum grows louder, vibrating through your chest like an impending storm, charged with electricity that feels both foreign and invasive. Shadows ride along the walls, twisting into forms that seem alive. Shapes with too many limbs, eyes that blink open and shut in patterns you can't decipher. Funny how chaos always feels heavier when it's closing on you, pressing against every inch of your being until breathing becomes a chore rather than an instinct. You stand frozen, clutching the ceramic vase tighter than ever, knuckles white with exertion. Your mind races, grasping a fragment of thought that slipped through your fingers like sand. Rationality has long since fled, leaving behind only raw emotion. Fear, anger, desperation. Yet beneath it all lies something quieter, a flicker of resolve. Maybe you can't win, but you can fight. And sometimes, fighting isn't about victory. It's about defiance, about refusing to surrender, even when the odds are insurmountable. Funny how humanity clings to hope even in the face of certain doom. Philosophers argue endlessly about whether this resilience stems from evolutionary necessity or sheer stubbornness, citing examples ranging from soldiers holding ground against overwhelming forces to survivors enduring unimaginable hardships. Tonight, though, there's no time for philosophy. Hope isn't a strategy, it's a choice. And right now, you choose to act. Summoning what little strength remains, you lunge forward, raising the vase high above your head. With a cry that tears through the oppressive silence, you bring it crashing down onto the black box. Ceramic shatters violently, shards scattering across the floor as sparks erupt from the device, hissing and crackling like angry snakes. For a fleeting moment, the pulsating lights falter, their rhythm disrupted by the sudden violence inflicted upon them. But then, almost immediately, they return, stronger, brighter, angrier. The hum grows deafening, reverberating through the basement like a banshee's wail. Shadows surge outward, engulfing the space in darkness, so thick it feels tangible. You stagger backward, arms raised instinctively to shield yourself, though you know it won't matter. Whatever force powers this machine isn't bound by physical destruction. It thrives on resistance, feeding off your fear and desperation like fuel for its endless hunger. And yet, amidst the chaos, something shifts. A subtle change, barely noticeable at first, but growing clearer with each passing second. The shadows begin to recede, retreating slowly back toward the walls as though reluctant to leave, but unable to stay. The pulsating lights dim slightly, their rhythm faltering once more, not because of damage, but because something else is interfering. Something new. From somewhere deep within the house comes a sound unlike any you've heard before. Soft, melodic, almost soothing. It's a voice, low and resonant, humming a tune that feels oddly familiar. Memories surface unbidden. Childhood lullabies sung by a mother's gentle voice. Melodies played on an old piano during quiet afternoons. The song wraps around you like a blanket, warm and comforting despite the terror still lingering in the air. Funny how music can pierce through even the darkest moments, offering solace where none should exist. The black box trembles violently, its lights flickering wildly as though struggling to resist the melody's pull. The hum grows weaker, fading gradually until it's little more than a faint whisper. Shadows dissolve completely, leaving behind only the dim glow of the overhead bulb, swaying gently above. Silence descends once more, heavy yet somehow less suffocating than before. You sink to your knees, breath ragged and uneven, muscles trembling from exhaustion. Whatever force invaded your home tonight hasn't disappeared. It's simply retreated, withdrawing into the recesses of whatever dimension it calls home. But for now, at least, the immediate threat has passed. The battle may not be over, but the war has shifted. As you sit there amid the wreckage of shattered ceramic and scorched wires, a strange calm washes over you. Fear still lingers, yes, but it's tempered by something else. Acceptance. You don't understand what happened here tonight, nor do you expect answers anytime soon. What matters is that you survived, that you stood your ground when everything inside you screamed to run. And perhaps, just perhaps, that act of defiance was enough to tip the scales ever so slightly in your favor. Slowly, cautiously, you rise to your feet, legs protesting painfully against movement after prolonged tension. Every step feels heavier than the last, gravity pulling downward mercilessly as though reminding you of the toll this ordeal has taken. Yet you press on, ascending the staircase one creaking step at a time until you reach the main floor. The house seems different now, quieter, emptier, as though purged of whatever presence had haunted its walls earlier. Windows cast faint moonlight onto dusty surfaces, illuminating ordinary objects rendered extraordinary by context alone. Crossing the threshold into the living room, you collapse onto the couch, body sinking deeply into cushions worn soft by years of use. Breathing slows gradually, heart rate steadying as adrenaline fades into the background. Outside, the world continues unchanged. Trees sway gently in the breeze. Crickets chirp rhythmically. Stars twinkle indifferently above. Life goes on, indifferent to horrors endured within these walls. For a moment, you allow yourself to close your eyes, letting the weight of everything settle fully. Questions linger unanswered, doubts persist unresolved. But none of that matters right now. All that does is the simple fact that you're still here, still breathing, still existing. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Let the silence envelop you now, gentle and forgiving, wrapping itself around your weary mind like a warm embrace. The storm has passed, leaving behind only echoes, faint reminders of battles fought and survived. Shadows retreat further still, dissolving into corners where light dares not venture, content to wait patiently for another time, another place. Your breathing slows, each inhale drawing in cool night air tinged with hints of damp earth and distant rainstorms. Muscles relax incrementally, tension melting away like frost beneath morning sun. Heartbeat steady, thumping softly against ribs stretched taut by trials overcome but not forgotten. Remember this moment whenever fear threatens to overwhelm again. Remember how courage found you even when hope seemed lost. Remember that survival isn't always about winning. Sometimes it's simply about enduring, about choosing to take one more step, draw one more breath, hold on just a little while longer. Now, let thoughts drift freely, untethered by logic or reason. Allow dreams to rise gently, carrying you to a restorative slumber where nightmares fade and peace reigns supreme. Tomorrow will come soon enough, bringing with it challenges anew. But tonight belongs solely to recovery, reflection, renewal. Sleep well, dear listener. May your dreams be kind, your rest restorative, and your waking hours filled with light brighter than any shadow could ever dim.